Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Production channel here at YouTube, and welcome to another Friday review. Today I am here, to review Midnight Lightning, the brand new second album from Austrian Rockers Roadwolf, released on May 19th via the Napalm Records label. So without further ado, let's begin. Alright. Now, before I get into giving my thoughts on Midnight Lightning, you know what I have to do. I have to do a track list rundown so I can tell you folks what are the songs that are on this album, how many tracks that are on this album, and what is the time length for this album. Since this album consists a total of 10 tracks, it clocks in at the length of 45 minutes and 11 seconds. So these 10 tracks are, beginning with On the Run, the title track, Mark of the Devil, which is practically the longest song on the album, clocking it at the length of 6 minutes and 32 seconds. Then of course we get into Supernatural, High Under Pressure, Sons of the Golden Horde, Don't Deliver Us from Evil, Running Out of Time, Savage Child, and then Isolated Hearts. So there you go, folks. There's your 10 tracks. You know what that sound is, folks? That is the sound of my notes once again slapping against the microphone. It's gonna happen on each and every review episode that I do from now on, so don't expect it to end. But that's it. You know what that is. That is the sound of the notes. Once again. Alright, now let's begin. This band knocked me straight on my ass back in 2020 when they unleashed their debut album, Unchain the Wolf. The thing that amazes me more is that Roadwolf had formed in 2011 and were featured on that Austrian Heavy Metal Alliance split that had Liquid Steel, Wild Hunt, and High Healer. All three of those bands went on to record full-length albums. Yet, Roadwolf waited, which in hindsight was probably for the better, because I strongly think that Roadwolf are playing on a much higher level than compared to those other to the other bands that were featured on that split. And on Midnight Lightning here, they are further showcasing just that. The biggest takeaway for me is that this second offering has more variety and diversity than on their debut. Yet, nothing feels forced. From the explosive On the Run to the dark yet beautifully performed ballad Isolated Hearts, you have a fair combination of hard-driving boogie rockers to even some of the band's most heaviest shit to date. And yet they work together. You have songs like the title track, which is melodic, and has this sort of mixture between Thin Lizzy and Wasp sort of aspect to it. But then you have a song like, Mark of the Devil, which kind of has a cool mixture of classic Merciful Fate and 70s era Scorpions. Or even, let's say for example, Sons of the Golden Horde, which is just pure epic bliss to begin with. Just a great track. Heavy as well. To then being treated to something like High Under Pressure, which is a straight up boogie rocker that even includes some pretty smoking saxophone solos that even gets harmonized with the guitar solos. Let's be honest, Roadwolf are not the first band to actually mix in saxophones into guitars. I know Striker from Canada, I think, did it before, and of course, probably the earliest example is Baron Rojo with the song Termites off of the Volume and Brutal album. Just to clarify that. But again, Roadwolf seemed to pull off great, and it works for the song. So it's a really cool, just a high-octane boogie rocker. Speaking of also being reminded of classic Scorpions, there is Supernatural, or She's Supernatural as it's referred to on the single. It kind of borders on being a power ballad, but it's dark and yet heavy, with Franz Bauer giving some of his finest vocal performances. Even bass player Christoph Eigner provides some really cool bass lines. Same goes for some of the bass lines as well in Mark of the Devil. Just really great. Then of course there's the brilliantly written ballad Isolated Hearts, which Franz pours his heart and soul into. Of course, there's room for some more classic anthemic rockers. Take for example like the awesome Don't Deliver Us from Evil, which instantly smokes. It's an anthemic call to arms like rocker that makes references to like Dio, and of course his period with Rainbow, like what, Riding on the Silver Mountain. Then of course Motley Crue and Judas Priest. I don't know about the whole Children of the Night part that's in the song. I don't know if that's also for Dio, because I think that, isn't that off of Rock and Roll? Could that be a reference to Rock and Roll Children off of Sacred Heart? Because he also references Sacred Heart in the song as well. So I don't know about the whole Children of the Night thing, because of, I'm either thinking of White Snake off the '87 album, or I'm probably going to think of the Dio track off of Sacred Heart. Alright. I digress. It's just a great freaking track to begin with, and again, the song deals with the themes of the 1980 satanic panic when Christian evangelists ran a crusade on heavy metal. So the song has a rebellious tone to it, which can be considered cliched, but Franz sings it with so much fire and passion that it's easy to overlook those things. Then there is Savage Child, which sees the band channel the lunacy of Raven. I know it gets, was it on the Bandcamp, or was it Amazon? There's a little write-up there, and I know that they tend to make comparisons to Motorhead with this track, but I mean, I can hear some of the Motorhead sort of comparisons with Savage Child, but I tend to really hear a lot of the classic sort of lunacy of Raven, especially recent days. It's just high-octane stuff. It's just again powered by pure exhilarated adrenaline with Savage Child. Just a great track, and it's pretty much the last of the straight ahead rockers on here. I know there's also Running Out of Time, which is a very cool, again, it kind of has an Ozzy Osbourne sort of vibe to it, but it's just a driving rocker that it's just really great. To me, there really isn't a bad song on this album. There really isn't. All of them have their own mystique to them, their own charm, and I think they're all driven by a lot of great hooks and just catchy lyrics, catchy choruses, and just great guitar solos, great riffs, great vocals, great melodies here and there, harmonized guitar parts. It's just, they're all perfectly performed, and there's nothing bad about them. If anything, they're all strong in their own little way, but the ones that I tend to kind of bring up here, that I mentioned, to me, are the standout tracks to me, but there's nothing bad about them. They are all great. This album pretty much sees a still relatively, I wouldn't say young band, but more so new band is probably the best way to put it, because of, on my notes here, I wrote young band, but I think it's probably better to say still relatively new band, because of, I know some of the members are still probably relatively young, in age, but it's just, again, no matter what, it just sees a band firing from all directions. You always hear the overused saying of that a band either has it or have it in order to praise a band's greatness. Well, Roadwolf just doesn't have it. They got it. And with Midnight Lightning, it is what Roadwolf displays. Having songs, like I just mentioned, with just as much hooks, great balance of experimentation, like with High Under Pressure, character, personality, which can kind of be coincide with each other, almost similar, and most of all, hunger. They easily are proving that they are the future of this genre and should be on tours with some of the world's most renowned giants of rock and metal. These guys are going to further expand on a foundation that they are creating, and I hope the payoff truly comes. This album and this band are really out to prove something, and this album shows it. So raise a glass to Roadwolf and blast some Midnight Lightning at the loudest level that you can. So there you go, folks. There's my overall thoughts on, well, to pull it up again, Midnight Lightning. My rating, it's a straight up 10 out of 10. When I first got this and with it repeated listens, I kept debating myself whether or not I really should go that high. But after last night, again, giving it just 2 more listens, and I'm still going to listen to this. This is probably never going to leave my CD player or even my phone. Oh my god, this is such a great album, I think, from these guys. Would I say, is it as good or maybe better than their debut? You know what? I kind of was going through this in my head last night. The way that I kind of tackle the sort of thing between which one is better, you know, this album or this, or, you know, Midnight Lightning, which one is better? Well, I kind of seem to come to break down to the analogy that I think you're going to look at this the same way people look at what is better, the first Michael Schenker group album or the second one, or maybe something like, I don't know, Dio's Holy Diver or Last in Line. You know, which one is really better? If anything, they probably were just equally as good. So I think that's what we see here, but there is something a little extra different about Midnight Lightning that I think kind of puts it a little, maybe a bit of an edge above Unchain the Wolf. Though I know that it doesn't have nearly as much the same rawness that Unchain the Wolf had, but it's still equally as tight. It's still equally as well performed. It's very creative. It's just working class, and I mean, I really put more extra emphasis on the word class, because Roadwolf are pure class at the highest level, and they really display that on Midnight Lightning, as I pretty much stated in this review. So it's just a really good album from these guys, and it's gonna be at this point probably a no secret or very adamant that I'm gonna put this high in my top 10 list. Probably will be my top 5. I don't know. This is probably as close to being my album of the year for me, because I just really enjoy this so much, and I feel there's something a little more special about Midnight Lightning. It is such a great album. But for those who might be familiar with Midnight Lightning and Roadwolf to begin with, and if you probably have already listened to this album and you have any thoughts, whether they are positive or negative, you can leave them in the comment section below. But if you haven't checked out Midnight Lightning or even Roadwolf in general, did I say Roadwolf or Roadwolf? Alright, but if you haven't checked these guys out or this album, like I'm kind of getting the point across, you know, go on and listen to it. Check it out. I'll leave you a link to the Bandcamp page, where they'll also leave you a link to where to buy this album. I know you can get off of Amazon, but I just want you guys to at least to support this band and hope that they keep continuing. They are a great, very creative young band to begin with, or new band. Oh, they were just still so good. So there you go. I hope all of you enjoyed. This is Heavy Thrash saying I'm out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.